edition space. Woohoo! We're so excited that you're here today. If you're joining us online now or later, thank you for choosing to watch our service here today. For those in the space, would you stand as you're able as we begin worshiping? We should have some worship handouts in the back, as well as we have our QR code up here. You can find lyrics utilizing the QR code here. Again, stand as you're able, and we'll get started here. All my life, all I know, God's been good to my soul. Mountain high and valley low, I'm gonna sing wherever I go. All my life, all I know, God's been good to my soul. Mountain high and valley low, I'm gonna sing wherever I go. God is for me, He's not against me. I will hold to the plans He has for me. When I'm broken, He will fix me. I will call on the name of the Lord, singing all my life. All I know, God's been good to my soul. Mountain high, valley low, I'm gonna sing wherever I go. Here's my heart song in my sorrow. He's my hope and my strength for tomorrow. When the storms rise all around me, I will call on the name of the Lord. All my life, all I know, God's been good to my soul. Mountain high, valley low, I'm gonna sing wherever I go. I got joy, joy, joy deep in my soul. I will sing, sing, sing wherever I go. Sing, I got joy, joy, joy deep in my soul. I will sing, sing, sing wherever I go. Singing all my life, all I know, God's been good to my soul. Mountain high and valley low, I'm gonna sing wherever I go. Singing all my life, all I know, God's been good to my soul. Mountain high and valley low, I'm gonna sing wherever I go. Y'all sound great today. How fun to hear your voices again. You may take a seat.
Well, good morning. It is so good to be with you this morning, the few, the proud. As we say here at the Grove, the right people show up. You are the right people, and we appreciate you being here. We were all set up outside. We were beginning rehearsals, and I had to run home for something. I live half a mile away. Got here, looked at my phone, it said raining in the next 40 minutes. So we thought, do we move inside? And then it started sprinkling. We're like, we're moving inside. So thank you for your flexibility as well. My name's Jeremy. I'm one of the pastors here at the Grove, and we are a church that exists to grow goodness. And so my hope is that those of you who are here with us today inside, those of you who are watching us online, those of you who interact with us out in the community throughout the week, hopefully simply through those interactions, there's some nurturing of wholeness, healing, wholeness, and beauty in your life. A couple logistical things as we begin this morning. Hopefully you grabbed one of these on your way in, our worship handouts. Next to the worship handouts, we also have the printed lyrics. So if you were able to scan this and get on the webpage, great. If you would prefer to have the printed lyrics, they're on the back table as well. Just want to throw that out there. But you all were singing along, so you must have access to some sort of lyrics, so that's fantastic. As you open up the worship handout and then flip it over, it has some of the most important information that you're going to want to know about the church, how we got started, what our values are. On the bottom left, there's information about giving, how to make sure we're able to continue to do all of this that we find so important, and not only for us, but for the people who are not yet here. You can give in that box at the back, physical gift. You can give via Venmo or even set up online giving. Then on the right-hand side, there's information about kids in worship. As we move inside for this summer worship service, the same applies here. We are in the midst of summer, which means that we do not have structured kids programming, and kids are valued members of this community and are welcome in here throughout the worship service. It is simply that you are responsible for them instead of us having children's ministry volunteers that are responsible for them. So there are things in the backs of the chairs, coloring activities for them or adults to be able to do. There's the wiggle space over here, which they can get up and move their body as they need. There's books in the back. We also have the nursery that's available outside in the commons area. Simply know that it is not staffed, and that once again, even as we're inside, you are responsible for your children, not other adults responsible for your children simply because they happen to be there. Then, as we go to the back, and then we turn it back over, we have our 3 announcements that we are keying in on this month. I'm actually going to take them out of order as you see them on here, simply because it's chronological order. So, first of all, we have an event coming up on August 22nd called Embers and Echoes. It's simply a campfire night where we're going to meet outside around our campfire, and we're going to spend some quality time together. We have lots of community events that we do, which are great, and fewer and fewer events just for us as a church community. Anybody's welcome, but the point is simply for us to be around each other and have fun. So we hope you'll join us for that on August 22nd, 6:30 p.m. Then on August 31st, our last Sunday of being outside, last Sunday before South Washington County schools begin, we'll be doing our backpack blessing, where students of any ages are welcome to come to the front, bring their backpacks, and we'll say a blessing over them. It's a great opportunity to invite new people as well. Again, that's on August 31st. And then coming up on October 11th, we have our pop-up pumpkin patch, which is our biggest community event of the year, where we have more than 2,000 people on our property, which is a huge deal and also requires a huge amount of help. So if you are someone who's interested in helping out with planning that event, reach out to me, connect with me after the service so that we can get everybody assembled to start making progress on that event, because October 11th feels like a long time away, and it's really not. We need to start making some advancements on that right now. There's other stuff that's going on, other information that you might be curious about, or you might be interested in more information about any of those things. You can simply go to that QR code on the bottom for the link tree. I think that's it for announcements. So we are going to move into the part of the service that we do every single week called Connection Point. Connection Point is your opportunity to connect with people around you through a little bit of forced interaction. We recognize that while it's extremely important, it can also be extremely anxiety-producing for some folks. So in order to lower the bar a little bit, make it a little bit easier to have some of those interactions, we provide one question that everybody can discuss. If you don't know what to talk about, you can at least talk about this one thing. And today's question revolves around temperature and what kind of temperatures you like. For the first time in the history of this building, as of Thursday afternoon, we have air conditioning in this building. Which is no small deal. And I had the thought as we were going into this weekend, if there's any Sunday where I'm really okay with being inside for Sunday worship, it's this Sunday, and it just so happened that we're inside for that. So hopefully you were able to feel the cool air as you're coming in. So the question for Connection Point is, would you rather be cold or hot? Would you rather be too cold or too hot? Would you rather be too cold because you can just, if you get cold, you can just keep adding layers? Or would you rather be hot and you can only remove so many layers? I would probably be rather too cold because you can add layers. You can see where my answer is. But maybe you'd rather be too hot. So why don't you stand up, find someone near you don't know or don't know very well, introduce yourself, discuss your temperature preference, and then we will circle back up in a few minutes. Oh my goodness. Yeah, there are no kids in here. Where are they? You want to go grab them? George is back there. Well, you can go ahead and find your seats. We are trying to wrangle the kids to come back in here because we've got a story to read to them, and they are all out there having fun. I could just have the adults come up here and circle around. That would. What's that?
Read it really loud.
Just read it very loudly. All right, kids, up here. No shoes. That's fine. Other kids? Anybody else want to come up here? It's fine if you don't. Okay. So you might remember, how many of you were here last week? Anybody here last week? A couple of you were here last week. We did a story last week throughout this series in August, this month. We're doing kids' stories every single week because we're doing Campfire Stories. So we're like reading these old stories from the Bible as if they were stories that we would tell our friends and family around a campfire. Oh, yep, socks off too. Absolutely. Can I do that? Sure, yeah. Chloe's at home. Chloe will be coming to the 11:30. 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock, yeah. You kids have me flustered, man. I don't get flustered very easy, but so we're gonna read another story again today. Do you remember what the story was last week? You two were here. Do you remember what the story was last week? It was about Joseph. Joseph, who had this beautiful coat, and his brothers weren't very happy with him, and so they sold him into slavery, and he had to go down to Egypt. And then they were in trouble, and so they came down to Egypt, and he welcomed them there. So we're reading another story today that's kind of after that, where Joseph and all of his family members have moved down to Egypt, where things had been going well, and then suddenly they don't go well. So this is a story called "Let My People Go." I'm going to hold up, since you're sitting up here, I'm going to hold up these pictures. Sorry, adults, you don't get to see the pictures. But all right, so this is called "Let My People Go." Moses and Aaron, who were family members of Joseph from last week, went to Pharaoh and said, "This is what God says, let my people go so they may worship me in the wilderness." Pharaoh's heart was hard. He would not let them go. So at God's command, Moses struck the water of the Nile River with his staff, and it turned to blood. That's weird. But Pharaoh's magicians could do the same thing, so Pharaoh would not let the people go. Again, Moses went to Pharaoh and said, "This is what God says, let my people go, or frogs will cover the whole land." Pharaoh refused. Frogs swarmed the palace, the beds, the ovens, and even the kitchen bowls. Did you know I am deathly afraid of frogs? This would be the worst one, by far. The Pharaoh's magicians could do the same thing. Pharaoh told Moses, "Pray to God. If God takes away the frogs, I will let you go." Moses prayed, and the frogs died. But when Pharaoh saw that the frogs were no more, he changed his mind. Again, Moses told Pharaoh to free the people. When he would not, Aaron raised his staff, and the dust of the earth became gnats and covered the whole land. Pharaoh's magicians could not do this. They told Pharaoh, "This is the hand of God," but he would not listen. The next day, swarms of flies filled Egypt, but this time the land of Goshen, where the Israelites lived, did not have any flies. God said to Moses, "I will continue to show Pharaoh my great powers until he frees my beloved people." An awful disease came, and all the horses, camels, flocks, and herds of Egypt died. People and animals got painful boils on their skin. Hail fell on the land, destroying plants, crops, and trees. Locusts filled the houses and covered every surface of the land. There was thick darkness in all of Egypt for 3 days, yet Pharaoh's heart was not swayed by any of these terrible things. He He refused to let the people go. Which one's you? Which one is the grossest? The locusts? The flies? They're on everything? That's the grossest for me. It's the frogs. Yeah, I know. The dead frogs are just as bad as live frogs. Where was I? Moses warned Pharaoh, all the firstborn people and animals in Egypt will die, but still Pharaoh refused to listen. God told Moses what the Israelites should do. They were to mark their doorposts with lamb's blood. They should roast the lamb and eat it with bitter herbs and flatbread. They were to eat quickly and their sandals on their clothes ready for travel. At midnight, all the firstborn in every unmarked home in Egypt died. Agonizing cries filled the land because someone was dead in every home. Even Pharaoh's own son died. Pharaoh called to Moses and said, "Take everything and leave. Go worship your God." Thousands of Israelites left, taking their bread dough before it could rise. They left with the gold, silver, and clothing given to them by the Egyptians. Moses said, "Remember this day, celebrate with a Passover feast every year, for God's great power has brought us out of slavery in Egypt." The end. And you are completely collapsed. The lesson of the story is that we should allow God to soften our hearts. That Pharaoh kept getting himself into more and more trouble because he wouldn't change. And we're done. All right. Let's give our kids a hand.
No, not your backpack. Go ahead and go back. Your backpack's in the other room, honey. All right. For the rest of you, would you stand as you're able? In case you didn't know, story time, shoes are not required. So now we know for future weeks, shoes are not required. So. Search the world, but it couldn't fill me. A man's empty praise and treasures that fade are never enough. Then you came along, put me back together, and every desire show you my weakness, my failures and flaws. Lord, you've seen them all, and you still call me friend. 'Cause the God of the mountain is the God of the valley, and there's not a place your mercy and grace won't find me. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. Sing that again. You turn mourning to dancing. turn grays into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. Oh, there's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. You turn grays into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You turn grays into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. Let's sing that again. It sounds so good. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. You may take a seat.
The socks are still up here. We'll collect those later. I truly do love being outside throughout summer, and I miss hearing your voices. The fact that we have this number of people in this room and I get to hear your voices singing, it's just beautiful. So, yeah. Okay, we are, as I mentioned earlier, we are in the middle of our Campfire Stories series, which we've done each of the last 4 summers, which takes a look at these old stories from the Bible and we try to retell them in such a way where we're not so worried about how they happened. We're not talking about the details of when they happened and trying to figure out all of that. In some ways, we're actually not even concerning ourselves with whether they happened. But instead trying to get at why, like what is the why that we would deliver in a story that we retold around a campfire with some of our closest friends and family members? What things would we include? What things would we emphasize that we might not if we get caught up in all of those other details? And so I want to acknowledge, though, that as we're doing this, there are some stories that might feel a little bit more tender in handling this way than other ones. There might be stories that I've tackled over the last 4 years that they're maybe less known or feel maybe a little bit less important, where we poke at them a little bit and it doesn't feel so tender. And then there are other ones that maybe they're a little bit more well known or maybe feel a little bit more important. And as we poke at those, it might feel a little bit like pushing on a bruise. Like, I don't know that you want to touch that one in that way. So as we get going this morning, I want to acknowledge that this might be one of those stories that might feel a little bit tender, like we're pushing on a bruise, because it is a big one and a very well-known one. So today we're going to be talking about the story of the Exodus, and more specifically, the story of Pharaoh and the 10 plagues. This is a very well-known story in the Bible. It is one of the first stories in the Bible. It takes up an entire book, the second book of the Bible. It's also a very well-known story, probably in our culture, because of the 10 Commandments and Charlton Heston. Anybody grow up watching Charlton Heston's 10 Commandments? Okay, maybe like a third of you. For the last 52 years, it has been aired on ABC on Easter Sunday, and we grew up watching it every single year. Charlton Heston as Moses in the Ten Commandments. So like it's kind of taken on some cultural significance because of that. On top of that, it's a big story because for the Jewish people, it is one of the foundational and formational stories for them as a people. As they exit Egypt, as they are freed from slavery in Egypt and move their way towards their promised land, this is like when they become a people. And because it's so important for the Jewish people, it also has been translated down to us as Christians as well, is one of those foundational, formational stories. And so it's a big one. And so I want to acknowledge that out front, that it might be a little bit tender. And so we're going to approach it with a little bit of tenderness, but also hopefully come at it from a little bit of a different perspective than what we're sometimes familiar with. So the story of the Exodus picks up actually where we left off last week. So last week we talked about Joseph. Joseph was the son of Jacob, whose name becomes Israel. And so his family becomes known as the Israelites. Joseph finds his way. He gets sold by his brothers into slavery in Egypt. And while he's in Egypt, he does a great job. He builds himself up, shows how wise he is, how profitable, how helpful he can be to the kingdom. And so he gets elevated all the way from being a slave and a prisoner to basically like the chief operations officer for all of Egypt. And during that time, there's a famine, and his brothers have to come down from their home in Canaan to Egypt. They discover that it's their brother there, and Joseph welcomes them, encourages them to go back and get their father and the rest of their family. They make their way down to Egypt to survive the famine, and then lo and behold, they make their homes there. And they become kind of a fabric of the community. So over the course of centuries, the Israelites, the family of Jacob / Israel, just become one of the people groups who are living in Israel alongside all of the native Egyptians. Again, this is the case for centuries. But today's story picks up in the beginning of the book of Exodus because after those centuries, a new king, a new Pharaoh comes to power who has no memory of Joseph, who has no memory of why these people are here, and instead sees all of these others, all of these foreigners around, and is not happy with them, is not happy that they are there, does not like the situation, and does not like the foreigners. And so he kind of assembles this conspiracy theory, you might say, a great replacement theory almost, where he goes to his people and says, these Israelites, these foreigners, they are not like us. They do not deserve to be here. They are growing at the point where if we allow them to continue in this way, they're going to have so many people, they're going to have so much power that they're going to take over, they're going to take all of your stuff. We cannot allow this to happen. And so what happens is the Israelites get put into slavery, they get put into forced labor, and they have, the goal is for them basically to be wiped out as a people. It gets all the way to the point where Pharaoh orders that all of the boys that are born among the Israelites are killed as they are born. One of them, however, one notable one survives, and his name is Moses. You might be familiar with Moses. Moses is born. He's kind of kept secret for a few months, and then in order to save him, he's placed in the Nile River. It makes its way down the Nile River, and then just so happens to land in the arms of Pharaoh's daughter. Pharaoh's daughter basically adopts him and raises him, and he becomes a part of the kingdom, a part of the king's household. This is where he grows up. Many years pass, and Moses, who's now a grown man, is out in the fields, and he sees an Israelite who's being beaten by an Egyptian. He can see the injustice that is happening. He says, "This is not right," and he kills the Egyptian, which is not a good thing. He recognizes he's going to get in trouble for this, and so Moses flees. He runs away to this place called Midian, where he is going to spend the rest of his life away from Egypt, where he's going to have to face the consequences. But God meets him there. God shows up to Moses after after a few decades and says, Moses, I am calling you to go back to Egypt, and you are going to be the one who sets my people free. I have heard their cries to be freed, and you're going to be the one who kind of initiates that. After pushing back a little bit, finally he goes, and he is going to announce before Pharaoh, someone that he has grown up with, to say, God is on the side of my people, and God is asking that you let my people go. And Pharaoh, of course, says, of course, I will go along with that. No, he does not go along with it so easy. So that is where we pick up the story in Exodus chapter 10, right? Chapter 7, excuse me. Pharaoh is not so easily swayed. The Lord says to Moses, see, I have made you like God to Pharaoh, and your brother Aaron shall be your prophet. You shall speak all that I command you, and your brother Aaron shall tell Pharaoh to let the Israelites go out of his land. But I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and I will multiply my signs and wonders in the land of Egypt. When Pharaoh does not listen to you, I will lay my hand upon Egypt and bring my people, the Israelites, company by company, out of the land of Egypt by great acts of judgment. The Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord when I stretch out my hand against Egypt and bring the Israelites out from among them. Moses and Aaron did so. They did just as the Lord commanded. Now, at first reading, it kind of sounds like God goes with Moses to Egypt, and he is like actively making sure that Pharaoh does not change his ways. It says that he hardened Pharaoh's heart, as if Pharaoh does not have a role to play in this and has no choice. And yet, as the story goes on, you can kind of see that that's not exactly what's going on here. It's probably more accurate to say that God allowed Pharaoh to do what his heart desired anyways. Pharaoh had this free labor from people that he did not like and did not want around. So why would he willingly give that up? Time and again, he's given opportunities. Moses comes to him and says, God wants you to free these people, and bad things are going to happen if you don't. He does not. Those bad things happen. Pharaoh seems to change his mind. The bad things relax. Pharaoh, again, his heart is hardened. He allows his heart to be hardened. And then the cycle continues over and over again. And so there is not this moment where the Grinch's heart grew 3 sizes that day. It's instead the exact opposite, that he continues to allow his heart to be hardened towards the thing that he kind of wants anyways. Again, this happens over and over and over again. And if you know the story a little bit, it happens 10 times. There are 10 different plagues that occur. So the first one is the Nile River is changed to blood. And then there were frogs, then gnats, then flies, then disease, then boils, then hail, then locusts, then darkness, and then the death of firstborn sons. And that last one seems to be the kicker. After his own son dies, after he sees that consequence, after it all kind of builds to that point, finally Pharaoh says, get out of here. He allows them to leave. And then once they leave, his heart becomes hard again, and he changes his mind, and he goes after them. There are a lot of elements of the Bible in general, but a lot of elements of this story specifically that historically feel a little bit squishy and scientifically feel maybe a little bit dubious. And it's maybe nowhere more clear than in these plagues, these miraculous things that seem to happen. And so over the years, over the centuries at this point, there's lots of different explanations for how these 10 things may have happened. Now, there are people who take these things very literally, that, of course, Moses announced them, Pharaoh denied that he was going to change his ways, and then God institutes them one after the next. But that's not everybody. There are other people who say, who try to figure out what was going on here, and so they say, well, it seems like they kind of build on each other. So maybe what happened was the Nile River turned to blood, or it turned blood red because there was red algae in the water. And that red algae drove the frogs out of the water and the gnats out of the water. Well, then the frogs die, and what happens when there's dead things? Well, flies come. And flies can bring all sorts of sickness that can kill things, kill cattle, right? Well, that brings all sorts of sickness to humans as well, and that might lead to boil. And you can see, well, one thing leads to the next, one natural thing leads to the next, and this is a story that kind of explains how some of those natural things happened. So there's some people that say that. There are some people who look back and think there was an eruption of a volcano around this time in Greece, and maybe the eruption of that volcano caused some of these natural things to happen. That feels like a really big stretch to me. And then there are also other people who look at each of the plagues that happened and actually are able to say, these seem to line up pretty closely with each of a different Egyptian god. And so as these plagues roll out, each of them seems to be at warfare with a different Egyptian god as a sign, as each one hits, this God of Israel is way better than your Egyptian gods. That seems to me to maybe be the most convincing explanation. And we're not talking about those types of details because this is Campfire Stories. And we're not worried about the details of how and when these things might have happened. Instead, we're asking about the why and what the impact and what the takeaway is for us today as if we were telling these stories around a campfire. Why did all of these things end up happening? And the why is because time and time again, Pharaoh hardened his heart. He refused to change. He refused to see things differently. He refused to admit that he was wrong. He refused to be softened by the people and the problems around him. And each time things got worse. Each time he hardened his heart, there was a consequence that built on the last, that built on the last, that built on the last, to the point where finally it comes to the point where even his firstborn son dies. Now, as one of the most important stories in the Bible, and one of the most important stories being told growing up, this was a story that I heard over and over again. Again, every single year on Easter Sunday, because Charlton Heston was on TV. However, this was also a story that was in every single, the kids' Bible is back there. This is a story that appears in all of the kids' Bibles, folks. And so all of the kids' Bibles that I was reading growing up has this story in them. And this seems to be the perfect story that tells us that even when we find ourselves in the worst of situations, like slavery, God can act decisively, even miraculously, in order to set us free, to act on our behalf. Now, you might note that I just said we and our and my, because growing up, all along, every time we were introduced to this story, we were taught to identify with the Israelites, with those people who were in captivity. And maybe today, as you're listening to this, as you find yourselves in whatever situation you find yourselves in, that is the message that you need, that you find yourselves needing some sort of liberation and some sort of freedom, and you need attachment to this story in this way. However, I would argue that the majority of us living in the United States in the year 2025 align much more closely to Pharaoh. Not that we're in the same position of power as Pharaoh, but if the comparisons in the story are empire and those who are under the foot of the empire, particularly foreigners, that we are much more closely aligned with the empire. Those who are at threat of having hardened hearts. Those are at threat of having cynicism that leads to skepticism, that leads to hatred, that can have all sorts of downstream impacts, right? A little over 9 years ago, at the end of July, I was diagnosed with melanoma, which is a skin cancer. And I was actually pretty public about it. I shared it with lots of people. And most people were kind, most people were empathetic, and yet there was a not insignificant number of people who in response to me telling me, or yes, in response to me telling them that I had melanoma, responded with, well, at least it's just skin cancer. Let me give you a little bit of pastoral care advice, or just like relationship advice. If someone tells you that they have cancer, you should show a little bit of empathy and shouldn't just respond with, well, it's just skin cancer. Okay, that's number one piece of advice. The second thing is melanoma. Yes, it's a type of skin cancer, but it's not like other skin cancers because it can spread and grow and metastasize. It can end up in all over your body. It can even end up in your brain. Melanoma can be very deadly. And so what I did not need to hear was that. What I needed to do was I needed to get into the doctor and get it removed as quickly as possible so that it could not grow, so that it could not spread, so that it could not metastasize. And so it would be very easy for us to say, well, a hardening of hearts, that seems like a very small thing. And yet the same is true with that as well. We can get to the point where cynicism can grow into skepticism, can grow into hatred for us as individuals, but then it can infect the people around us as well. And as we find ourselves in the year 2025 in the United States of America, it can infect an entire society, an entire culture, to the point where things like a great replacement theory can become very normal and become something that even some in the government say is a reality. So we need to pay attention to the hardening of our hearts and take it seriously. And we need to know that as hardening of hearts can start as a small thing and grow and spread and metastasize, softening of hearts can do that as well. It can begin very small with us, but it can grow and spread and metastasize. And the good news is that not much further into the book of Exodus, we are reminded that God is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger, and abounding in love. That begins with us, but it can spread from us as well. And so as we imagine our family, our church, our community, our country, we can imagine how things might be different if we led with an open hand instead of a closed fist. We can imagine how things might be differently for us, our families, our communities, our country, and our world if we admitted that we could do better. We could imagine how our family, our church, our community, our country, and our world might be different if we admitted our need for grace and then extended that grace to others. So may that be so. May it begin with us. And may that spread and metastasize. Amen.
Would you stand as you're able? Jesus, draw me ever nearer as I labor through the storm. You have called me to this passage,
One more thing before we go. In connection to the pop-up pumpkin patch on October 11th, again, we're looking for volunteers for that. Saying, Royanne has traditionally done a sale of different types of baked art. Okay, so she has a pre-sale for some of the items that she has been working on. These items, if you didn't hear her announcement last month, have raised hundreds of dollars that she has given to the church for a variety of different things. So her pre-sale is opening now, and she's got a sign up. Is it going to be out there on the table? So what are some of the items? How about that? Beet pickles, refrigerator pickles, strawberry jam, pumpkin bars, zucchini bread. If she can get zucchini, our zucchini's not growing at home. Okay, those are the things, really good things. Again, they're so compelling that she has sold hundreds of dollars worth over the years. So if you want to sign up to purchase some of those, connect with her afterwards. She'll be right out there with the sign-up sheet. Again, it was so good to be with you on this morning. Even if we had to move inside, even if it's a smaller crew today, we're blessed by your presence being here. There's plenty of other places that you could be. You're already mostly standing, so all of you extend your hands to receive this blessing. As we go, may we be people of softened hearts, and may that softening grow and spread beyond us. May it spread to our families, to our households, to our community, and to our world in ways that grow goodness. May that be so. Amen.